Hello and welcome back. And that's right, me and this horrendous shirt are back to talk about the subject of travel routers, 4G routers, SIM routers, LTE routers. They come under a bunch of different names, but ultimately they are the way in which you, when you're traveling into another country, want to make sure that you have got reliable and secure access to the internet. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through several different travel routers and several different SIM routers that I have personally used on my own travels in the last few years, alongside one example that I know a lot of my colleagues have been using and one example of something you absolutely have to avoid. But before we go any further, a few disclaimers straight off the bat. I've been utilizing network equipment, routers, and all kinds of internet connected devices professionally for a number of years now. If you follow the channel, you know about it. So if you've come to this video because you're about to go on a trip with your family to France and you're wondering about a good travel router, you'll probably still find this video helpful, but just understand I will be discussing some of the background tech elements of some of these options as well. So I will dust on some of the easy chewable facts, but I'm going to be including some matters with regards to encryption and router repeaters and stuff like that, something you need to be aware of. The other thing I'm going to touch on is no one of any of the solutions I'm going to talk about, barring one, will do everything. I've broken this down into the best travel router, the best SIM router, the best gateway device. Each one of these solutions solves a different kind of problem, and only one of them solves all of them, but we'll get onto that later on there. And keep in mind, if you are based in Europe, there's every possibility, and it counts for most of Europe, that your existing cell phone provider, your mobile phone provider, your O2, your EE, your Vodafone, whatever, will probably allow your existing data to carry over into other countries within Europe. So you may not even need a travel router for those setups there. The other thing to keep in mind, if you do travel out further, perhaps to the east, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, that sort of thing, if you do travel to those regions, you can pick up routers at the airport incredibly affordably for as little as $10 to $15, 10 to 12 quid, UK pounds, maybe 10 to 12, 15 euros. But keep in mind that these SIM routers, more often than not, give you very little control, and they will open the door to perhaps concerns about privacy, encryption, and if you are going to utilize those devices to enter login authentication information for different websites, you're not fully confident that that information isn't going to be eavesdropped upon. So know the risks if you go for those more convenient, affordable, short-term options. Now, the first device I want to talk about is this one. This is the GL.iNet Slate 7. This is a very recent integration into my existing travel setup. I generally find myself leaving the UK for different destinations around the world on average about once every 3 months. And prior to this device, I was already utilizing the previous generation of this, and that was the Beryl AX, a Wi-Fi 6 travel router. This is the newest version released at the beginning of 2025. This is a Wi-Fi 7 travel gateway device. Now, before we go any further, this is not a SIM router. So if you are looking for a device where you can put a SIM card in and get internet right out of the gate, this is not for you. This is designed as a one-door gateway for all of your devices. Imagine you're traveling with your partner, you're traveling with your family, you're traveling with professional colleagues, and you're utilizing public Wi-Fi services. You're using Starbucks, you're using hotel Wi-Fi, perhaps Wi-Fi on the train, and you're concerned about, one, the amount of time and energy having to keep logging in to all of those public portals, but also how much of that data is being monitored there. This solves a lot of those problems. Now, this allows you to connect many devices, all of your family and professional colleagues' phones, all of your laptops, all of your devices. They will all have the SSID or the Wi-Fi connection on this device, and then via the mobile phone application on one of those devices, you can connect this to the public Wi-Fi, and then all of those devices will use this as a tunnel. This allows you to add numerous VPN services to it to encrypt that tunnel. You can also use it to have the data packets monitored. You can utilize it to assign priority of service and quality of service, POS and QoS. It also has physical Ethernet ports as well as Wi-Fi 7 connectivity there on the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz radio frequencies. Unfortunately, it doesn't support 6 gigahertz frequencies there. Now, it has a real-time LCD display there that you can use to configure a lot of the options, and it is touchscreen. Again, you are going to need to supply either your own internet connection via a connected mobile phone, a USB router, or utilizing third-party Wi-Fi connections around you and use this as a gateway or a repeater. This is a convenient device for travel which simplifies the connecting process of all of the devices in your travel group into one gateway. But what about a SIM router? Now this brings me to a device that's been currently in my travel setup for the better part of a year, and this is the Solis 5G. Now the Solis 5G solves a lot of problems. What this is a router that you travel with you with an enormous battery inside and a USB port there on the back, and this device not only has a SIM card slot for you to put in a local SIM card or an eSIM if you choose, but on top of that, this device with Solis allows you to add world data, unlimited world data for that matter, on a daily, weekly, monthly or annual basis. This is often my fail-safe in the bottom of my bag. Now, if you look at their website on, say, Boxing Day or Black Friday, you can generally get an incredible deal to stock up 15, 30, 45, 60 days of world travel data. And what that means is, once you arrive somewhere like here, Shenzhen, China, it will allow you to go on the app that you've got connected with this and then add that 1 day of data, of unlimited 5G data. And then this device is able to provide support up to numerous devices in your group via that connection. And keep in mind, you have got a SIM slot which allows you to add a second connection if you need as a failover there. Now, alongside USB tethering, which means you can connect this device directly for an even faster connection of a USB 3, the other hugely beneficial thing about this once you buy it, and it isn't cheap, I'll be honest, is that you get 1 gig of data for free every single month, anywhere in the world. It covers the majority of the globe. Well, what that means is, if you need less than 1 gig of travel data for your Google Maps or local equivalent, you maybe not even need to buy any data to go on this. You just have this in your bag, and then when you choose to travel to somewhere around the world for a short stay, and you just need data to get you from the airport to the hotel until you've got something more rigid in place, 1 gigabyte of data will go a very long way. And it just means when you, like I do, arrive somewhere and you just need a little bit of data for a short amount of time, you turn it on and you've got 1 gig of data for free out of the box to get you where you need to go and kind of get the right footing early doors. Now, as mentioned, it is not the cheapest. It has some controls on there that I wouldn't say rival that of the Slate 7 that I talked about there. So in terms of configuration, you're a lot more limited than you've got on there, but it's way more convenient, way more kind of service supporting. And I would argue if you're going to travel a lot and you're going to travel every single month, that 1 gig of free data every month will give you a real sense of peace of mind from trip to trip if you're worried about relying on airport Wi-Fi, the train Wi-Fi, or whatever it is that gets you from the moment your feet land on the ground in your country of choice and where you plan to stay. Now this next option is the RT-AX57 Go from ASUS. Now this is what I would call an integrated travel router. It's a dual band Wi-Fi 6 router, and although when it launched at about $129, it's now you can pick it up for about $99, $100. Now this device is a flat square portable design. I've only ever used it personally once, but I've seen it professionally at CES and Computex many times with other content creators and other users traveling on the go and need a travel router. Now this device has, for example, multi-switch capacity, and much like that Slate 7 I talked about, it has a physical switch built into the side that allows you via one click to enable a VPN, enable different services, enable the Wi-Fi, disable the Wi-Fi on the dot, and it allows you to run certain things. Also, it's very light, only a dimension of 12 centimeters square and only 2 centimeters thick. It weighs next to sod all. It's a back pocket travel router. Now, why do I say it's an integrated router for your travels? Well, largely because this can be meshed with an existing ASUS router setup. So say back home in your studio or just your front room or whatever, you've got an ASUS router. You may even have an ASUS router provided to you by your internet service provider. Some regions actually get that, along with TP-Link routers and others, and Thompson, with their internet service provider, their ISP. If you have an ASUS router, you can have this as a mesh node. That means that if you've got a spot in your house that isn't quite getting enough internet, you can get this travel router, plug it in and get it to repeat the existing network that you have and add a new area in your home or business for a new Wi-Fi access point to improve the strength in that area. And then when you go traveling, disconnect it, pop it in your bag, and travel to the other side of the world. It is integrated because it allows you to make the most of it. And unlike some of the options that I've mentioned up to this point, where that router would have sat in the bottom of your bag until the next time you leave the country, this time it is a device that's going to be working when you're at home and when you are away. Now, it isn't the most powerful of all the ones I've talked about. Indeed, of the three that I've discussed so far, it is probably the weakest, but it does have that integrated software and you can configure a whole lot. Much like the software that arrives with the GL.iNet, it supports a USB drive that can be turned into a shared storage device for backups or multimedia, and also you can install different applications thanks to the open source software. Bottom line, this is not a travel router that I've personally used, but it's one I've seen used many, many times in the field, and I've only heard good things. And now on to my favorite travel router of all of them, which, and again, I'll explain why in a bit, I don't have with me here in China. And that is another GL.iNet product, and this is the GL.iNet Puli AX. Remember I mentioned at the start that I had one travel router recommendation that does everything? It's this. It's the most expensive. It retails for, 400 to 500 Nika. However, the Puli AX is both a local router that you can have in your home or business, and this is a high-end class router. This can be comparable to Netgear, Nighthawk and more. It has got 6 antennae, it's got 2 SIM card slots, it's got an SD card slot, it has multiple 2.5 gig and gigabit physical interfaces there. It's got all of the feature set of the GL.iNet travel router here, but on the top of that it has that SIM card slot. It can integrate a wired internet connection from your home or business. It can also repeat existing Wi-Fi connections, and it can be utilized on the go when you want to use public Wi-Fi spots. It has an integrated battery inside, which means that it can be used locally on a mains adapter, wall mounted, or put in your bag and travel. It's quite large, but it is by and large the most capable by a country mile travel router that I could talk about. It's also a Wi-Fi 6, it's dual band, it is the most powerful. You install apps. If you have got the money and you are looking for a travel router that also serves as a prosumer or professional consumer router for your home or business environment, you cannot fault the Puli AX. Just keep in mind, it is the largest router I'm talking about today, and it is by far the most expensive. But if you've got the bunts and you need a router that does everything, it's the best option by a country mile. And before we end today's video, I want to talk about the travel router that you should never ever buy. I don't care if you see it on eBay for a favour. I don't care if you've bought it and you've gone to your local phone shop and they've said to you, oh, we'll throw in this travel router for a low price. And that is the Netgear M6. The M6 has actually been upgraded a couple of times by Netgear, but it's still available for purchase. The M6 is Netgear's own travel router, and you would think Netgear, a very well-known name in the world of routers and networking, would have a very good product. The reality is the M6 is one of the most unreliable travel routers I've ever used in my years of traveling for business. Notwithstanding that it would overheat, notwithstanding I had to buy a new battery because it kept expanding. On top of that, the battery would keep disconnecting, and the device in my bag, I didn't realize, had powered off, and you had to manually reboot it every single time. And at first I thought maybe it was just me, but it wasn't, and I found countless examples online of people that have utilized the Netgear M6, very recent reviews as well, up to 2024, where this has still been a very unreliable option. And even though Netgear have released a Wi-Fi 6 and now a Wi-Fi 7 alternative to this, some of those problems in the Wi-Fi 6 version have persisted. I believe it's the Wi-Fi 6E. And ultimately, if you are considering a Wi-Fi travel, a SIM travel router or a gateway device, regardless of your requirements, make sure that you read up on modern reviews on this thing, because it may be on your shortlist and you're trusting the fact it's got Netgear in front of it. I personally would recommend against it heavily, but that's really my opinion. Maybe you could counter that and you've had one and it's worked for you. But that has been the travel routers, travel gateways and SIM routers that I have used in my years of traveling around for work, and I hope this video has been helpful for you. Clearly, there's going to be links in the description where you can get hold of these, and using those links are going to allow me and Eddie to keep doing what we do, thanks to the commission we will get if you click those links. But only click them if, one, you found this video helpful, and two, you were going to go to those shops anyway. If those two things are true, please use those links to help us out. But apart from that, have yourself a fantastic week. If you've got any questions or other recommendations, or perhaps you're traveling around and you need a little bit of advice from someone that's been around in terms of traveling for tech purposes, go to the comments or email me directly at Robbie at the name of the website. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.